Okay, so like I said, problems 5 and 6 are just like 3 and 4. And if you didn't watch that previous video, that's fine. You totally get how to understand how to do factoring then, and you're just working on what to do if your equations don't equal 0. So, in number 5, we would love to factor this, but remember we use what's called the zero product property when we break up our two factors and solve for, sorry, I just wrote product twice. Hard to talk and write at the same time when you're writing different things. So we use the zero product property in this step up here when we break things up into two separate equations and solve for x. So in order to actually use the zero product property, then one side of your equation needs to be a 0. So we have a 2 over here. To make that side of the equation equal 0, I just need to subtract 2 from both sides. Now, notice that I subtracted 2 from the constant, the other term on this side that doesn't have a variable with it. So that's super important. You can't take 5n squared minus 2 and get 3n squared. It does not work like that. Those are not like terms. So if I subtract 2, that's going to give me a 0 on this side. That's what I was going for, so I can use the zero product property. And then I just have 5n squared plus 3n equals 0. Now this looks a little different, right? We've been factoring most recently with trinomials. So that means a polynomial with 3 terms, but this only has 2 terms. So think about our factoring methods. What do you notice both of these have in common? They both have an n, right? So if I factor out a greatest common factor of n, what's left? We have a 5n plus 3 left. So we just need to take these two factors then and set both of those two factors equal to 0 using the zero product property. So we're going to say either n equals 0 or 5n plus 3 equals 0. Now normally we solve both these equations. Notice this one's already solved for us. We're good to go. So I just need to solve this right-hand one for n. So I'm going to subtract 3 from both sides, get 5n equals negative 3, and then divide by 5 to get n equals negative 3/5. So the answer to problem number 5 is n equals 0 and n equals negative 3/5. Now for problem 6, again, our goal to start with is we want to make sure one of the sides of the equation equals 0, but this equation is equal to a p minus a 6. So let's first add 6 to both sides. So we're going to have p squared minus 4p plus 6. Notice there was no other term for us to add the 6 to. Equals p though. We want that to be a 0, so I'm going to subtract p from both sides. Notice that I'm lining up my like terms. So I have p squared minus 5p plus 6 equals 0. So those p's canceled out. So now I'm trying to think of a number, two numbers that multiply to 6 and add to negative 5. So 6 and 5 are tricky because you think 6 and 1 and you also think 2 and 3. So be careful. It needs to multiply to 6, a positive 6, and add to negative 5. So a negative 2 times a negative 3 is going to make a positive 6 and is going to make a negative 5. So I'm going to break this into p minus 2 times p minus 3. Using the zero product property, I'm going to set both parts of that equation, both factors, equal to 0. So I get p equals 2 and p equals 3 as my answers to problem number 6. So those are our 4 review problems on factoring for this practice test. Make sure you feel confident in all those methods. You are likely to see similar problems on your test.